This is a drill for graded washes. So in two of these areas I'm going to try and do a flat wash using different techniques, and then in two other areas I'll do a graded wash using different techniques. So the first one is going to be a flat wash on dry paper, which is what I have here. I mix up a reasonably milky kind of consistency here, and I'll put this on here and see what we get. Okay, so I'm going to need, if I want that to be even all the way down to the bottom, you can see that because we're using gravity here, it really does cascade from the top. So what I need to do is utilize that, but also compensate for it by supplying at the top, knowing that it's going to cascade down, and just keep on going. Let the brush open out a bit there, push the brush down, and of course it's all going to descend, as you can see. The paper starts to rise in the middle, and therefore you get a lighter area at the sides, which is why I'm doing that. And I'll just put in some more at the top here, help it to go down, and a judicious spray here, light spray, helps it to even itself out. If I pick up some tissue and just pick up what's there at the bottom, or else I can do it like this. I can use a brush here, just gather it along the bottom, down to the sides. Just a squeezed out brush I'm using there. Of course it all wants to find its way to the base of the page. Nothing wrong with that. You've just got to be prepared for it. There we are. And I'll just keep an eye on that. You can see that at the top there, it is still dragging some of that pigment down, so I'm going to add some more pigment up at the top, thicker pigment. And just help it all the way down. There's still a sheen on this, so it will continue to do some drying while the sheen is there. That looks like it might be a bit better, but there's a point at which you can no longer interfere with it, and it will you just let it dry. It does quite a bit of evening out on its own. So we can only really judge this when it dries, but as you can see, gravity is still doing its work. And so let me move on to the next way of getting a flat wash. That should be a flat wash when it dries, or near enough. In this area here, I'm going to do a similar flat wash, but starting with wet paper. So I take a brush with clean wet paper. With clean water, and I wet the paper. There we go. Dragged on some pigment there, never mind. So there, that's nice and wet. And I'll just mix up pigment here. So I'm going a flat wash on wet paper. So I need thicker pigment here, because as soon as this touches the paper, it will of course spread it. I may even need some more pigment. There we are. So that one is still quite active. This one here, let's see what we've got. Wet. Okay, right across the centre, and then right across the top, and then right across the bottom. And now I'm going to try and now I'm going to join them up. So you can see that the wet paper has a beneficial effect on this, I think. Reserve judgment to the end, but it helps. It helps even out the flow of the paint. And again, as long as it's wet and has a sheen on it, you can go in and do some work on it. I'll just try and clean up the sides. Go back to that one, clean up the base. There we go. Now this one still has a sheen on it, so if I thought that it was going to dry and it wouldn't be as flat as I want it, I can still interfere with it, so to speak. But I'm quite happy with what's happening there. And we'll see over the course of time, but it looks fairly flat. There's a bit of a dip in there where the paper is bubbled a bit, but let's see how it goes. Yeah, you can see a little bit of something happening there, but okay. The next wash I'm going to do up here is a graded wash on wet paper, and what the grading is going to be is darker at the top and lighter at the base. So first of all, let me get some pigment and water mixed up. There we are. I'll wet the paper. Don't know quite what happened there. Right, let's do this. Just wetting this paper. Sorry if I get in the way. I need to see if yeah, if I've got it all wet. And that looks, yeah, that looks like it's wet. Okay, starting from the top, I want this to be nice and dark at the top. So try and get plenty of pigment on my brush here. And there we go. Now I'm going to start to squeeze the pigment out of the brush, and now I have to actually wash the brush out, squeeze a bit off, and come in here, squeeze some more water out, press down quite hard, and now wash out in clean water. Completely clean water. And as you can see, I'm getting a few streaks, which I'm pressing down there. Oh. Okay, maybe I should pick up a completely dry brush and soak up some of that there. Okay, so the next one here is a graded wash on dry paper, and this time I want to be light at the top and darker at the base, working on dry paper. So for this one, I start with a completely clean brush of clean water. Still need some pigment here. And so, clean water here. And I've gone about a third of the way down the page, so now I'm going to pick up some pigment. Light at first, very light, and then with each successive stroke I should add pigment, really, which is exactly what I'm doing. Add pigment and see if I can get a nice gradation. More pigment, thicker consistency. More pigment. There we are. Let's just see if I can tidy up the sides here. There we are. And just along the base of each of these. I think on this one here I must have splashed some water by carrying a brush over it. And just try and pick up some of that. A little bit of something going on there. So I'll just I'm just trying to encourage the blending here with that little bit of spray. The spray is a great rescue mechanism if you keep it handy. And as you can see, Looks to me like I need to go in here, folks. So that spray has revitalised the whole wash, and I'm going to have to try and control it with some more pigment and more water. So important lesson here is never give up. If you give up, it definitely won't work, but it's possible to recover this, I think, and let's see if that is the case. The water is very important in all watercolour naturally, but it can scare you because it has a power of its own. But experience tells you don't be scared of it, try and utilise it. It gives you time. Water gives you time, and well, we'll see when this dries just how good that advice is. But so here we are, flat wash on dry paper, flat wash on wet paper, graded wash on wet paper, graded wash on dry paper.